Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2, with probably the most underrated Zerg player in the world right now. In the red, it is SHIN, who has to be a little bit careful, because in the blue, the Protoss have already activated their trap card. A best-of-5 Protoss versus Zerg showdown. That'll truly be a display of SHIN's quantity of Zerg versus the quality of Trap's tactics. But, speaking of quality and quantity, I'd once again like to ask you to smash that like button before we get started. And maybe even subscribe. And Jimmy, what are we at? One more. No. 1,432 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And that's a threat. A promise. I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Starting things off with an Oracle on the way for Trap, who's kind of redefined the meta a couple times lately with those glaive adept plays, DT drops, but overall the Oracle's the mainstay of early game Protoss versus Zerg, because if you don't have them, and many times you just die, there is no reliable defense on the ground against the sheer amount of units that Zerg is able to bring to the table if they're so motivated, or even if they aren't. And, well, while that's lore accurate, it kind of means the Stargate is by far the most reliable choice. Same thing on the other side. SHIN opting for more and more queens. All right, you need anti-air, you need economy, you need emotional support. 2 out of 3, queens. So, at the end of the day, both sides are kind of stuck on their quarter unless they have units that can circumvent the speed of these early game harassment tools. Or designated pressure tools, depending on how you want to phrase it. It's all about marketing nowadays. The Oracle just kind of sharking around, the queens voicing their displeasure and throwing knitting needles out at it. But overall, a passive start that will eventually be broken likely by SHIN's commitment to Zerglings, though of course not with adrenal glands. We don't allow that around here. SHIN has a religious exemption from that upgrade. But the Evo chamber's already done, which almost always indicates a +1 melee. Let me finish my sentence, please. Or I could just talk faster, but... Chrono boost your words, Winter. And your brain to make better jokes. And also, not act bipolar in the middle of the cast. Oracle lasers down one of the creep tumors. Queen doing a bit of moonwalking, trying to jump off the edge of the map. It doesn't really work very well underwater. 4 drones dead. One of the Oracles, a strong current away from death, but is able to get away. And now the Shady Bunch is headed towards the natural. 6 adepts, and there's that little area you could jam yourself into, which SHIN doesn't quite get because Brenda gets in the way. Now surrounded by adepts, but her sacrifice, well, not even a sacrifice, not in vain, as she physically blocks with the great size of her hitbox those adepts from being able to get that little area in the corner entirely. But still, 11 drones dead to the multi-pronged pressure. The adepts eventually cleaned up. None of the Oracles went down. So despite the heroic and physically large efforts of the queens and the Zerglings, it was still a pretty decisive victory overall for Trap. But there's still 65 drones. Part of the reason so many drones were lost were that so many were made instead of just basic Zerglings. Queen's trying to deal with the Oracles. There's not enough energy for transfuse. Get off my creep! And SHIN, he gets one of the Oracles, but straight up loses the 4th hatchery. Really didn't expect Trap to stick the landing there. But the hatchery has been diffused, and now a bit of an awkward situation, as when you're going for a +1 melee style of Zerglings, with this many lings, well, you need larva. What I'm getting to is you need larva. And losing a hatchery is certainly not conducive to having more larva. And speaking of larva, Mutas, a dramatic MUTALISK switch. SHIN will just be trying to take advantage of what he already has on the field, which is a massive amount of Zerglings. Yeah, maybe a little late on that count, but very unlikely that Trap now with a badly bruised Oracle. He killed off one Oracle. He hurt another. it's very unlikely that Trap will expect the Spire in such a timely manner. Now, the question will be, does it matter? As Templar Archive's already on the way, he suspects at the very least a sort of mass-sling Bane style. So Storm is a good and viable counter to pretty much all Zerg, but especially the more fragile ones like Mutas, Lings, and Banes. So Mutas can definitely reset the tempo of the game, as in forcing cannons, forcing more units out of the Stargate, essentially becoming a mini-game where you're chasing the Mutas around the map with a few Phoenixes. And down goes another Oracle. Ambitious, brave, and now very dead. 7 Mutas on the way. And will he add any more? Not, oh, okay, well, quick answer to that. 10 Mutas. No Infestation Pit, no other tech, no Hydra Den. Did he even get Roach Speed? He did. All right, Roach Speed is done. No Baneling Speed yet, but Mass Mutalisk will be the choice here in game 1. And a bold one at that, and somehow Trap, he loses another Oracle, which will not help things going forward. Yes, Oracle's not a counter to Mutas, but they can keep track of them. There's no cannons in the main natural. There's some in the third, but they're clearly for defending the Zerglings, and I think Trap has to be getting a little suspicious right now. He's slapping down cannons. If he didn't see the Mutas, he can smell them, which, with no mouth, maybe they have a good sense of smell, the Protoss, but... And this ground army, more than capable of wiping out the Zerg, but the Mutas, somewhat anticipated. The Stalker's warping in. He's going to lose a lot of probes, but SHIN has already lost a hatchery. The Banelings try to close in, but without Baneling speed, having a real tough go of it. Blancs on top of more Banelings. 15 probes are dead. Main base being gutted as the action explodes on both sides. But still plenty of Templar. Storms onto himself. Ends up getting a couple more Archons out of it. Roaches and Lings filling in. Mutas finding more probes to slaughter. And the Stalkers are forced back. SHIN comes out of this with about a 40 supply lead, especially after killing 2 more Archons. The Mutas are still on the field. A single Phoenix. Oh, and a bunch of Blink Stalkers. Calls in the cavalry. The Mutas still chipping away at probes. He knows their time is limited. Eventually, the Phoenixes will be high enough number, like 3, in order to shut down the Mutas for good and chase them to the ends of the earth, which is not too far away. But with all this, it's a very odd scenario because SHIN, in his mid-game madness, still does not have an infestation, but he does not have a Hydra Den. He has 185 supply, but he has probably the most mediocre 190 supply that you can get. It's just Ravager Ling Bane. It's all about quantity instead of quality. Meanwhile, Trap has significantly less army supply, but he's working on +2 Protoss ground weapons. He already has +1 armor. He's building Immortals. He's got Storm. He's got a 4th base done. So if Trap is allowed to live for much longer, he's going to have a much better army. In fact, the cost of his army is nearly equal, despite the supply gap. So we'll have to see, but he drops out the Templar. Not quite enough to deal with the Banelings. Looking for another wave. Blancs in front of the Bane. Shield Battery overcharge will help stall some of this out. Another good Storm. Using that Storm Prism. The Mutas are nowhere to be seen. They flew off into the north side. More Stalkers. Warped in. Blinking back. Picks up the Ravagers on the back line. Banelings trickling in towards the minerals. But the Stalker count is starting to consolidate a defense, and he's able to chase it back for now. 3 probes dead is the final tally of this entire attack. His Trap turns the tide against the Zerg and carries it across the map. There's 16 more Roaches in production, but that's not going to be the answer to the well-upgraded Immortals and Stalkers. The Mutas are fighting a cannon, trying to find an opportunity as SHIN desperately rebuilds this mid-game army. And Trap playing defense with a shield battery overcharge and your cannons is a lot easier than fighting onto the creep. As the Banelings roll in, he can juggle back the Immortals and Archons, and any very lucky Stalkers juggles back the Immortal, looking for the Archon, gets targeted down, but wait, here come the Mutas, out of nowhere from the top rope, and he gets the Prism before he's able to warp in a full round of Stalkers, and SHIN turns it around. The Roaches, the Queens knock down the Phoenixes, reinforcements onto the field, Immortal, the Roaches on top of it, no Warp Prism to save it, the Queen's getting involved as well. And the Roach Ling will overrun the field as Trap bit off more than he could metaphorically chew. Again, though, a similar scenario to the previous engagement. Trap still has 4 bases with great tech. SHIN has 5 bases with mediocre tech. The true Zerg versus Protoss quandary. Both of them reaching a little further. Finally, SHIN has invested in a hive. 17 more banelings. He's still got 80 drones. So Trap is one bad fight away from disaster, where SHIN has a little bit of leeway for recovering. But in terms of the armies, how many Templar with energy? He lost the Prism in that fight, and he has yet to rebuild it. So without the Warp Prism, he doesn't have the reinforcements he needs. Oh my. The Banelings coming in for another round. Oh, beautiful Category 5 storms, but none in the third. As the Banelings roll in, and the probes will not be rolling out. A dozen probes dead, though it was quite costly in terms of Banelings. A Templar surrounded and killed. And Trap is on very tenuous footing right now. Down 60 supply. The continued waves of Ravagers, Lings, and Banes. The hive is done. Adrenal glands, a distant dream. But, still no actual hive tech units as he focuses on the Roach Ravager. Where are the storms? I found them! And here come the Roaches, trying to overwhelm. Gets an Archon merge off. More Banelings into the third. Another dozen probes and then some. As Trap again battered down economically while he defends the main attack. The Dark Shrine is completed. A Shrine to Dark, always a valuable option. Another wave is being loaded up. And now, SHIN's income is adrenal glands. Within the first 2 minutes of getting a hive, who is this and what happened to SHIN? The biggest damage upgrade for Zerglings in the game finally being researched, but will it be enough? The force fields are broken on the Archons. The Storms, though, helping to thin this out. And oh my god, look at this defense! The shield battery overcharged, DTs at the back, undercutting it, and SHIN is forced into total retreat. Trap with a solid defense. I don't know if he lost a single probe. Meanwhile, 16 drones are dead to the Dark Templar. And Trap has taken the worker lead, and he's taken back map control. And I'm sure SHIN will use this to justify never researching adrenal glands ever again, at least for 3 more months. Somehow, it's the spawning pool's fault. Trap with a massive turnaround, finally able to find that economic counterattack damage. And here we are. Greater Spire's on the way. Credit to SHIN as well. He remembered, in some of these scenarios, players will just forget they had the tech originally. Like, forgetting you had a Spire and rebuilding a Spire to go for Broodlords. But SHIN remembers. And now he's making his Spire great again. Still a long way off, though, and the army values heavily in favor of Trap. Over double the gas value in the army, especially with the storms on all these Banelings. I think he wanted them to finish so he could storm them, because if they're canceled, you get 3/4 of the money back. So why give your opponent a free refund? Zealots chase down. Archons all over the field. And now, if SHIN didn't have... Trap has not had a strong army this entire game. He's had the makings of one, but he's never been able to fill it out. But the Archon count is so... He has 9 Archons up against really not that much more army supply out of SHIN. The Broodlords and/or Vipers and/or... at some point, conventional Zerg, without either tier 3 units or spellcasters, just does not stack up against the overwhelming power of the Protoss. The Zealots fighting Baneling Cocoons, which is a dangerous game indeed. Like Aiur roulette there. +3 melee attack is complete. A prism full of Templar, who are probably full of energy at this point. The Dark Templar The Zerglings cleaned it up, but he mixed in a DT with the Zealots. And SHIN didn't notice in time. More beautiful storms. Really zoning it out. He takes out 2-3 hatcheries. And now SHIN is down to his first 3 bases and almost no income. He's almost forced to fight. The War Prism, no, is knocked down. He gets 1 Templar out. Just in time. A good pickoff for SHIN. Gonna get another Archon as well. Trap getting a bit strung out here, but the storm ripping through the center mass. Evaporating so much. Zerglings at the back, but Zealots are drawing fire. And the Ravagers just being pummeled. The Corrosive Bile's off the mark. Shotgun blast into the sky. Comes down empty. The Archons. Oh. Oof. Well, those Corrosive Biles landed. And the Zerglings take out a Nexus. SHIN still fighting. And this entire time, SHIN has had the supply lead. It's just his army has struggled. Trap is fighting on that tiny choke point, but he's at risk of overextending yet again. What a game. SHIN really working with these mid-game Zerg units, but the army values again. And it's the economy, stupid. Like, SHIN has been working with almost another base of income for most of the game. Trap now has the economic lead. Having a 4th base to your opponent's none will do that for you. And that means he's correctly decided to slow things down and let SHIN make the next move instead of trying to attack it. It's no longer Trap's obligation to fight into SHIN. That was not the case before. When SHIN had 2 more bases, you gotta look for any advantages you can find. Ah, Scouting Immortal. Brenda! DTs still. Ooh, Corrosive Bile's almost finding it. But Zealots and DTs slicing up on both sides. And as soon as the DTs... What happened to the Greater Spire? Did he cancel his Greater Spire for money? He didn't lose it, right? Interesting. He's getting it again. It's a changeling. My life for Aiur. Right, guys? Who is Aiur, anyway? Trap just slowly but surely widening the gap. If he was able to fight off the Zerg with a supply deficit, having a lead is certainly a comfortable place to be. He's doing so much, the casual Archon drop. Oh. Dodges the Corrosive Biles. It's pretty much... SHIN's like, okay, fine, I'll build 1 Viper. He has 2,700 gas in the bank. So, probably could be a bit less stingy with his investment. But, wow. Decides instead... Wait, what was going on here? I think there was something else? Not that it matters much. He just... Wow. The emotional toil. Either way. He knows how bad it is. There was a changeling with the army. And he's seen how many bases. He's on less bases. I get it. Kind of an awkward timing. For sure, but... It was clear that if Trap was able to defend against those first attacks, it wasn't going to be difficult to deal with the rest. So, Trap with a remarkable collected defense against overwhelming Zerg forces, and finally finds an opportunity to counterattack. It does so to overwhelming success. That was some near perfect Protoss. I think let's find some criticism. Let's do a criticism sandwich there. Great micro on the Templar, on the War Prism for the most part in general. But the Oracles kind of just died early. And the reason the game got so crazy is because those Oracles died before even really spotting the Mutas. And the Mutas were almost enough for SHIN to undercut Trap's entire economy. But the decision-making was very much on point, recognizing that SHIN was committed to this massive Zerg composition and just thinning it out constantly with the storms. Which, it's not easy. It doesn't look easy, and it's even harder than it looks. We're doing the pylon wall still. It's back in style. The pylon in the wall. Being a strong from me. You get that wall off a lot quicker. You don't have to rely on getting a second gate to wall against the early lings. But you do have a pylon in the wall, which is quite a vulnerable point compared to, say, gateways. He's gonna hide the Stargate back there. Or a Twilight or something, I'm not sure. It might be time to mix it up. Throw a Glaive to Depth build in there, whip it out, see what happens. Not always a great strategy in all situations, but sometimes it works. Stargate it is. Adept, heading out. I really love the usage of the Prism Templar. The Prism Templar has mostly been reserved for Protoss versus Terran to avoid a Ghost EMP, but there's no reason, especially against an army like SHIN had, that doesn't have any built-in anti-air, really, not to have the Prism Templar. Honestly, it feels at risk of criticizing players who would beat me 100 out of 100 times. Feels a bit lazy to just be walking the Templar across, so you have a Warp Prism right there. To keep them in a safe, like, getting a 50% stronger Storm can literally make or break a lot of pushes. And Trap showing that to incredible effect. It's going to be a Void Ray. Very sneaky. The Void Ray implies sneakiness. Alright, clearly intent on popping those overripe tomatoes and making sure the overlords get no scouting. What are these Zerglings up to? There is an Oracle behind it. One of the weaknesses of the Void Ray, it just doesn't have the damage output to deal with Zerglings very quickly. Oracles, on the other hand, well, they're reliant on energy, can burn away those Zerglings very fast. And SHIN, very cognizant of that. Will run away, but still ends up losing several lings. And he actually built a lot of them. It seems like he really wanted to delay that base, but that puts him in an awkward spot because just now is he catching up on the drone count. Building that many Zerglings early and even committing to that much damage on the base now kind of hamstrings your early economy. As Zerg, you need to build... All of your buildings are drones. I don't know why this is so hard for me to say. All right? But every time you build an extractor, a roach warren, an evo chamber, a hatchery, a spore crawler, speaking of, like, that's another drone dead. And Trap gonna help that count down as well. That... Why don't we have a range upgrade? Shut up, Susan. Shut up. Alright, they didn't want to make Hydralisk tier 1 because they wanted to pretend this wasn't Brood War 2.0. And that's why they took away our wings. And I'll never forgive them for that! Brenda. Just inject a hatchery, calm down. Alright, I'm not tired! Exactly. Alright, you got a lot of pent-up energy there. Shut up, Susan! Sorry. Oh, blacked out for... Blair's on the way. Blink behind with +1. The Void Ray cosplaying an Oracle, but not doing a very convincing job. Tries to dart in. And just a casual Stalker timing. Is there even like a probe here? He's just walking across. Blink is not even close to done. The Zerglings still intimidated, though. Infestation pit is already on the way for Shin. But I think that might not be for Hive. That may very well be for Sir Richard and his merry band of brethren. The Swarm Hosts. We'll see. Third base. Oh, Oracle taken down. Down goes one. The Zerglings on top of the Stalkers. Get some damage in, but mostly able to recall in time. Some credit there. Another one of my very many pet peeves. That is a Nidus network. And 4 Swarm Hosts. 4 swarms, and 14 years ago when Legacy or Wings of Liberty was released, we had no idea how much free units would become a sticking point in StarCraft 2. But eventually we recognized how much of a disaster of game design that would be. So nowadays we have a better, a stronger, a more potent swarm host, but not one that maintains a permanent presence, but instead one that occasionally throws its spawn into random bases and then dies after like 20 seconds. Like most things nowadays. They just don't build them to last anymore. The Nidus screams, but Trap is already halfway across the map and he can't recall back. The Locusts are headed for the main base. We'll see if he has them manually controlled. He does, thankfully. The Nexus is vulnerable. Shin, just defending at home. There's not much to be done. The probes are pulled. He blinks. It's gonna be close, but not close enough. Down goes the Nexus. The Stalkers will fight it out. They have some time to work before the Swarm Hosts are off cooldown. If he can draw out a Locust Wave back at home, that is the ideal scenario. But losing the main base certainly doesn't help. Trap actually retreating instead of trying to press the issue further. And that is a very tough call, but it might be the right one. If he can shut down these Niduses entirely. Shin, well, the thing is, fighting into what was Shin's army at home was possibly a recipe for disaster. Trap is clearly subscribing to that Protoss school of quality over quantity. He's going to have the best possible army, and even if there are a few rough spots to get there, even if it takes him some time, he loses a base, he loses a few probes, as long as he eventually gets all the upgrades and the unit composition, that's the objective. Not trying to take some crazy base trade and praying for the best. Not trying to take advantage of maybe a lapse, or maybe not a lapse in the attention of his opponent, but instead building up a relatively simple but very strong army. Thing is, though, Shin is going to have a much more complex defense this time around. He's got a Lurker Den on the way. He's already got Vipers in production, throwing the Hydras in the mix. And the Swarm Hosts are raining down. And one of the Colossi gets caught. Corrosive Bow. He spotted the stasis and knocks it out with the Corrosive Bow. Beautifully done. And now another Colossus. Don't do any bonus damage against the Roaches, but adding any sort of splash is helpful. Noticeable lack of Archons this time around, but Trap at 155 to 199 supply. 10 Hydras on the way. Vipers nearly full energy, and nothing to stop them from yanking the Colossi. And are there even any Immortals left? One Immortal underneath the Colossi trying to hide. Zerglings at the gates, but the Zealots will hold it for now. Speaking of hold position, oh, there's the Warp Prism. Army supplies. Oh, income's now going to Shin, but the Zealots to the north side. This army composition of Shin's does not really split up into parts very well. He's got Zerglings, but if he can't easily split anything but the Swarm Hosts off in order to defend. The Lurkers help out a lot when it comes to dealing with Zealot counterattacks. The Swarm Hosts just pop out some Locusts from well outside the third. Lurker range is nearly complete. Knocks out an Overlord that actually supply blocks Shin at 195. Oh, Templar feedback on the Vipers. Blinding Cloud, though, on the Blinkstalkers. Yanks in a Colossus. If it's... oh, my. The Lurkers just slice it up, but he takes out the Hatchery anyways. Meanwhile, Zealots in the natural. Colossus still intact. It's not by far not the major danger. The Immortal is in this composition. Does he have Storm? No. Trap just realizing that as well. As he starts the Storm upgrade. But the Zealots take down 12 drones. He knocks out a hatchery. Trap is desperately trying to take a fourth. SHIN is building 11 Overlords. So he won't be supply blocked. I'll give him that. Maybe he'll make Mass Overseer. Targets the base. Wasted one volley on hitting those Zealots, and that may have made the difference. As it gave Trap the time he needed to redirect the shield battery to stave off the destruction of the Nexus. Just some tactical Nidus. I gotta say, quite a great series so far. These two pretty evenly matched. I think Trap has the edge, and continues to, but SHIN is playing a different but comparable style. SHIN is very Zerg-like. I know, a silly statement, but he really plays a Zerg, which is very strong right up until your opponent gets close to 200 supply and then drops off dramatically. Oh, 0 out of 5. Murderous feedback. Gets him kicked out of the game. One Viper dead, the other one badly bruised. And +3 missile attacks will complete exactly 2 seconds. Oh, I thought the Stalkers would go for it. He already had another one queued up. Colossus goes down. Oracle wanders into the fray. Gets a great revelation. Those are lurkers. Yep. Where are the lurkers going? I'm wondering where the lurkers just wandered into the fight. And now the Immortals are just obliterating them. Trap comes up. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Swarm hosts have taken out a Nexus, the Zerglings, but it's not enough. We kind of stumble into a base trade, and SHIN comes up short. What a game. Another wild back and forth. Just a remarkable attention to detail and decision-making there from Trap. And again, he's able to take the victory. Well. SHIN just runs out of steam, and Trap seems to build up over time in a bit of a reversal. And that brings us to match point. Trap up 2-0. As we go into El Cajon. So far, two different styles of Protoss between the kind of zoning Void Ray or okay, well, we're gonna have to talk about this, but the zoning sort of Stalker Oracle and the more aggressive Templar Archon. But it's a gold base. We're on Alcyone. Will we do it? Yeah. Both players know this is not just a possibility, it's a probability. But SHIN has to have a response to this. That isn't necessarily, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be defending this base. It's such a weird situation, because this gold base is important. He's bringing the drone. He's just going to take his Natchery. He wants to force Trap to commit to the 2 pylons. I think that's what we're doing here. Oh, he teleports the probe out with Protoss magic. Well, technically every race can do that, but... And he locks in the cannon again. And there's the great cancel dance as we're playing Hatchery Chicken here. Probably what they taste like. So now SHIN has double expanded. And, well, Trap, keep cannon rushing. Keep cannon rushing. I need my clickbait title. Like and subscribe. Alright. He's got an Adept on the way. Hasn't added anything else. There's 6 Zerglings on the way. The time for cannon rushing has passed. Having the Forge already done is quite convenient. As well for any sort of upgrade you might want to do. It's clear SHIN is not going to have much more than the slowlings. Knocks out a drone. Yeah, and this is the problem. Like, when you've got a hatchery up so late, you don't have the queens, you don't have the Zergling speed. The adepts just... She has 17 drones. That's not very many, in case you needed that hard-hitting analysis. And especially, now if you need more comparison, Trap has 25 probes. It's not like he's lost any probes or gotten super greedy. The main benefit here is you're going to have 3 hatcheries of larvae. But when you have to spend a lot of that larva on Zerglings, that further cuts into it. So I think Trap has really found a nice middle ground in his response here. And by that I mean he's just doing a very standard follow-up. But kept enough control of the situation to keep Shin's economy in check, while also developing his at home. It's very easy to get... If he had just done another cannon rush, maybe it would have worked, maybe not. But it certainly would have limited his options for a follow-up. And while I would have loved to see what a follow-up cannon rush would look like, so far this series has been defined by Trap just deflecting everything Shin shows at him and throws at him, and eventually building up to a game-winning counterattack. And Game 3 is no exception. The Void Ray. There's a little pylon in front for channeling things. Remember when pylons could shoot? Ah, yes, the good bad old days. So beautiful. I gotta say, even in this, we're approaching the amount of time that so StarCraft 1, in case, okay, warning, back pain warning. StarCraft 1 came out in 1998. Brood War, I believe, was the same year. I didn't play it at the time. All right. I don't even know if we had a computer at the time. I think we did, but that was not good for those adepts. But StarCraft Remastered, StarCraft 1 Remastered came out 2015, if I'm not mistaken. If I am mistaken, this is going to be way off. Which was 17 years later. We are now going on 15 years of StarCraft 2. Here's the thing, though. Honestly, and obviously I'm incredibly biased, I think StarCraft 2 still holds up. Like, between the animations, the graphics, I would love an update for, like, taking advantage of technology developed past 2010. That would be great. Like, so I could play Direct Strike without lagging. But that's just kind of the nature of it. But, and of course, I would not trust today's Blizzard to remaster stuff. In fact, I would be actively against it, considering their recent track record, but kind of crazy. I think Grant may have had it right. I will rule forever. In reference to StarCraft 2 and RTS. But hopefully that's not true. But for today, well, the Adepts try to dethrone the monarchy. Jams into the corner. The Queen's not quite there to deal with it and just shading through. Slicing up the Zerglings. Gets a few of the drones. I'll target more. Roaches popping out. Spine crawler. Solid backbone to the defense. And the Roaches on the high ground. And, well, decent damage. But with these sort of attacks, we always have to ask the critical and very profound caster question, which is, of course, but at what cost? It did cost Trap pretty much his entire army. Every unit he had. There's a Spire for Shin. Once again inspired to get some damage done from the skies. Will it be enough? Oracle overhead. I like sitting on the edge of the creep here because he knows he killed at least one queen. It's just going to be Ravagers for Aiur. So there's no reason not to be sitting here on the edge of the creep and making sure that nothing can move out without him knowing about it. Even if there's not that much on the ground back at home to defend, it doesn't matter. because the Oracle and Void Ray can do enough damage and give enough preparation time. Those corrosive bows, they look bigger than they are. All right, they just got out of the pool, okay? Adepts, they do have glaives. Able to slice up a few drones. Yeah, get 4 of them for 2 adepts. Just keeping the pressure on. Shin only had 61 drones in total. So clearly not a booming economy. Compared to Trap, who's going on 4 bases with more workers. 10 mutas on the way yet again, as Shin will try to make the mutas work. I think, therefore I am. But also, this army composition is a little less prepared than he was in Game 1. As there is not... the Templar Archives is not done. There has been no scouting of these mutas, and even though Shin doesn't have an incredible economy, the mutas will slow everything down. There's no hint of it. There's no cannons. There's no phoenixes in production. If he's lucky, he may even be able to delay or destroy the Templar Archives. So, I think Shin has done a great job of masking what he's attempting to do here. By showing so many units on the field, Trap has no warning. And the surprise mutas are oftentimes the deadliest. Already gonna kill 4, 5. He reacted quickly. The Blink Stalkers, though, already too late. Terrestrially bound, despite the blink. 8, 9, double-digit kills now. As Shin angles for the base at the top right corner. A dozen probes dead, and it won't end there. He's trying to fight the army heads up. The sentries. Force field's a bit late. Will knock him down. Corrosive bile sprays across the field. Hits a lot of Zerglings as well. But this base is almost entirely taken out before even the fight started. 18 probes. He's fighting the Stalkers heads up. He can't warp in the front because he's still dealing with the mutas. The stasis is helpful, but not enough. And just continues raining down. Great stasis to backstop against the Zerglings. And the Zerg army's starting to thin out a bit. The muta's still rampaging, though. And the economic damage is devastating. Oh, no. Trap. Well, it looked bad. They'll expect one of us in the wreckage, brother. Corrosive biles his own Ravager cocoon to kill the Oracle. Well worth it. Trap actually maintains quite a solid economy. He kept the 4th base alive. Shin didn't kill any bases. But he also has not been touched back at home. That's the main issue. Got the Stalkers try to form the battle line, but the Corrosive Bile will force them back. Shield battery overcharge, well placed in the mineral line. And the Ravagers, it looked good, but he's juggling the Archons back beautifully. And now, the mutas finally will be hunted down and cleaned up by the Phoenixes. Another dozen probes dead. Shin up 60 supply. But this is becoming a very strong Protoss army. We've seen this story before. Shin does not have a hive. He doesn't have much in the way of upgrades. Just +1 ranged attack and starting on melee. The mutas are gone. It is a very tenuous game right now. The army values are nearly equal despite the supplies. And the positioning favors Trap. He's fighting with his back to the shield batteries and with a great concave on top of the ramp. So Shin is getting severely diminishing returns. Now he can focus his entire both attention and his army on fighting the main ball of Ravagers, as opposed to having to chase down the mutas. Awkward. Okay. Worth it. A few dozen more Zerglings. Oh! Trap actually gets clipped by the Corrosive Bile on the way down. Shin is rebuilding, but Trap has rebuilt quicker. The army size gap is closing dramatically. Wow, that is really doesn't tell the story in terms of value, because the total value of Trap's army is higher than Shin's, both in minerals and gas, though quite close. And that's not a perfect indicator of the strength of these armies, but Trap also has the upgrade advantage. 44 Banelings. All right, then. But he doesn't have speed, not for 12 more seconds. Thankfully for Trap, Storm is only 2 seconds behind that. The Banelings are waddling into the fourth, a slightly mistimed, but so many Banelings! Oh my, but the Storm soften up a couple dozen. The Banelings roll by, slaughter an entire base, 17 probes dead, but the Watchtower is quite a choke point. More Banelings rolling in, so much damage done. And the Templar, will die, but the Storms thin out the Bane count dramatically. +2, +1 done, and those upgrades really kick it in. He blocks forward, picks up a Ravager. The Warp Prism reinforcing from the back. 4 Immortals, the backbone of this army. And just holding strong throughout. Shin forced back up his ramp to the third. The reinforcements will be cut off in between. But Trap is at risk of being overwhelmed, especially considering the drones on the field. Corrosive kills his own Overseer. There's some time to warp in again, and I think he's done it. Trap holds the line, he dodges the dangers, he knocks out most of the army. And what is there left to stop this? Nothing. 2 Gs for Gen G's Trap. And that is a clean sweep. 3-0 victory, though every game desperately hard fought. Not enough from Shin. A similar story of constant aggression defended by Trap's near perfect defense, and ends up in one of the more dramatic series I've seen recently. I really enjoyed it. And that means hopefully you'll enjoy this anti-spoiler bonus game. Do the people want team games? Say yes, I'll like and subscribe for team games. Totally. Because also from Wardy's amazing tournaments, we have Wardy Team Liquid Map Contest Tournament. So a quick 3v3. I don't actually know if it's quick. I assume it's not too long. As team games... Okay. Well, a clean sweep from Trap. A classic, an amazing 3-0. Though a great series nonetheless. Jimmy, that'll do. That'll do. Let me introduce our players here on Lost July. For the Southern team, we have Psystorm's Gerald, rather. Spirit, and Max Bags. Up against Nightmare, Ziz, I'm not sure who that is, and his creep is encroaching on all the base, and Harstem. So... 3 versus 3, with only 1 Terran, 4 Protoss, and a Zerg. Zerg always in an awkward spot in team games because you cannot build on your teammates' creep, nor your enemies, as creeps creep. And there is no admission. That's probably my biggest pet peeve and annoyance with team games overall, is how absolutely no effort was made to make them more than like 3 1v1 players. Though credit to Wardy for putting on a team game tournament. If you want to see more, maybe I'll cast some more of the dedicated. There were full series. I'm not exactly sure the format, but full series between players like Maru and Harstem. I'm not sure if Clem played in it. I'd be interested to see that as well. I know my favorite team series was Cyril and Oliveira versus, I believe it was Maru. No, Dark and Hero. Which... was from World Team League last year. But I haven't watched these matches yet, so... Well, I'm going to try to keep track, but once things get going, it's going to be almost impossible. So we're just going to do our best to keep track of the production tab. We got a Dark Shrine out of Nightmare. Adepts and Hellions. At least we know what... The Zerg and Terran are always on the same... are easy enough to keep track of. It's just the Protoss that are going to get confusing. Mags Packs getting chased by Harstem across the field. The Adepts, 1 barely shades away. But the probe citizen's arrest takes it down. Was that first blood? No, not even close. Nightmare's pylon will be spotted. And the southern team, we're going to just go by the first player on the team. So, Team Hearthstone and Team Spirit, which sounds a little odd, but obviously the captain is leading. And Team Spirit just sounds pretty sick. But we'll choose an MVP at the end of the game as well. Nidus on the way for Ziz. Zzz. Infestation bit. It's going to be like 1.5 base Nidus Swarm Host, which is quite an optimistic strategy. Stasis catches some of Hearthstone's probes. 3 Swarm Hosts on the way. Spirit going for more of a bio army. Blink. There are 4 players currently researching Blink. So that is clearly the choice. Oracles come in. Max Packs burning out many more of Hearthstone's probes. Try to figure out how to see the worker count. You know, just eyeball it. Nidus begins on the left corner. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a Terran on his team because he could scan and then use that for Nidus vision, which is quite a mechanic. Oh, he heard it. So, Spirit, if you actually have your volume turned up enough, you can hear the direction that the Nidus is coming from. So I believe that's what... Oh, this is awkward. Okay, well, he pops out a few of the locusts. Gerald deals with it. He's just blinking around. He's gonna... This is, quite an odd exchange. Wait, whose stalkers are these? Nightmare catches Gerald. The Nidus is still intact, though. I wouldn't want to use it. Meanwhile, Hearthstone is fighting Max Packs on the field. There's a missile turret for defense. And the Swarm Hosts pop out onto the field. I lied. The Nidus pops out. The Swarm Hosts are still waiting for their moment. and brings out the Swarm Hosts. The Locusts make a decision. The Oracles continue to burn through, invalidating the existence of the entire shield battery. Max Packs doing a great job keeping the pressure on and defending at home with those beautiful Blink Stalkers. Max Packs probably the best Blink Stalker micro player in the world. And we're going to get a great comparison with 4 Blink Stalker players on the field right now. Stalkers jumping in. The Swarm Host just standing by. The numbers have increased. And unlike in 1v1, you don't have to build anything else. You have teammates for that. The Swarm Host will continue raiding down. The Locusts continue production. Max Packs' Nexus is on 1 HP. Oh my god. What a save. It's still in a very tight 1 hit point. And the overcharge will bring the shields back to full. It has 1 hit point. And they're defending it with everything they have. Unfortunately, Protoss buildings aren't mechanical, so Spirit can't repair them. And the Swarm Host will continue the siege. The Oracles and Max Packs trying to keep everything under control. Team Hearthstone. Their supply looking okay, but a lot of it's in Swarm Hosts that are being escorted back home by the Nexus. 1 HP? Are you kidding me? The 1 more than he needed. Actually, no, that's not true. Exactly as much as he needed. Max Packs is chasing down more of the Stalkers. Nightmare blinks back. Combines. Maybe they should share control and just let one player control the Stalkers on one side. I feel like that would be an ideal move, especially if you have Max Packs on your team. The Swarm Host. Nidus at the 9 o'clock. Spirit loads up a drop. Looking to intercept it, it seems. Recalls back. The Nidus will pop out, but the Stalker's already on top of it. The revolving door of Locust. Ah, some of the Swarm Hosts. Ricky! Well, we'll cancel the command, or just outright kill the command center. Team Spirit, escape Nidus. Let us in! No! 2 get in. The other 2 get slaughtered. That Nexus. still a very close game in terms of supply. Team Spirit starting to consolidate. Team Hearthstone, less, like, Ziz has the supply, but it's all in Swarm Host, which is a bit misleading. So I think Team Spirit is in a much better position. It all revolved around that 1 HP Nexus. 3 more Swarm Hosts on the way. That's an entire, how many? He has 26 Swarm Hosts. But they haven't been having the impact they need. It's getting desperate now. Mule's repairing. He can repair the Stalkers as well. Terran, the support class in team games, able to heal and repair all of their teammates' units. Swarm Host raining down again. And it's becoming desperate from Team Hearthstone. They need to get something done soon. Otherwise, Team Spirit will simply overwhelm them. The Stalkers brawling it out. They kill another Nexus. But the Stalker count, 34 for MaxPax, 25 for Geralt, 11 and 22 for the Protosses on Team Hearthstone, respectively. And getting chased down, the Swarm House with no Nidus to pop into. Several get gunned down. Siege Tank, Metavacs here, they'll also heal the Zealots. Locust rain down. Hatchery will likely be taken out. MaxPax making his own inroads to the southern side. And MaxPax's Stalker count is so high, he might be able to fight both players at once. Nightmare's at 80 supply, Hearthstone at 118, and Ziz only has Swarm House. Zealot run by, pings across the board, Warpins as well, the pylons. This base is a mess. Well, more Locusts. It does feel like the momentum is heavily with Team Spirit now. With the Metavacs joining the fray, the Siege Tanks on the backline, the Marines, the beautiful split on the Marines, easily gunning down the Locusts on the open field. Nightmare, does he have Storm done? He does. Oh, hits a lot of the Marines. Melts through, but the expansions are destroyed. MaxPax using an Observer to work up to the high ground. And they're bottled up in their own base. Going to be a real tough time breaking out of this one. The main base, oh, drops in with the Siege Tanks. This is actually at 171 supply. But again, and it's all Swarm. Did he lose his Nidus network? He may have. And there's nowhere for the Swarm. Are there any... Wait, did he lose all of the Niduses? No, his supply's still high. The hatchery dies. The sheer unit count is too damn high. They're still fighting. Storms across the board on the Protoss armies. The Swarm Hosts! An entire screen of Swarm Hosts! But they have no babies to succeed them. They have nowhere to go. They're just kind of getting in the way. You ever felt like that? The entire main base has got it. Some Dark Templar warped in to defend, but a desperation move at best. Wait, no, those are not. They're to upend. Those are MaxPax's DTs. The main base of Nightmare is gone. And this game is becoming a nightmare for his team. JG across the board. Team Spirit, MaxPax, and Geralt. The 1 HP Nexus lives, and so does the team. MaxPax had a mothership on the way at the end of the game. Okay, that was a lot of fun. You made it to the end. Let me know. Don't spoil what the anti-spoiler bonus game, but just say I want more in the comments or something along those lines. You know what? Actually say whatever you want. I want more team games too. But that was a remarkable game for how relatively short it was. I guess when you jam 3 times as many pro players into the game, the action is going to escalate dramatically. Now, some games, I think it also ends abruptly as well, but this was quite a back and forth. So between Trap's decisive gameplay against SHIN and Protoss's decisive performance, well, mostly against each other here on this Wardy map contest map, hopefully it made your day just a little bit better. So if you got the means and motivation, be awesome. Check out Patreon or YouTube membership. And we're using some of the Patreon now to sponsor things like Wardy's tournaments. But mostly it's in case you want to give me more money, mostly. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. So thank you for watching. And if you haven't yet checked out the second channel for more content, StarCraft 2, and so much more. But also StarCraft 2, then Winter Gaming TV. And that's the end of the list. I think that's all we got. Let's not drag this out. Thank you for watching. Hope I made your day just a little bit better. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.